Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah,
We're going to be talking about something that I think is pretty relevant to pretty much everybody.
yeah.
Credit card
Yep,
scams.
absolutely.
And with our lives being so intertwined with credit cards and, digital payments and all this stuff,
Right.
it feels like anyone could be a target these days.
Yeah, it's true.
And we've got a few different sources here. We've got some YouTube videos.
Okay.
We've got some articles.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really hoping that we can kind of synthesize all of this together
Right.
to give our listeners,
A better sense.
a better sense
Might be the
of
landscape.
what's out there, how to protect themselves.
Right.
I was reading some stats that were pretty alarming.
Okay.
Apparently, like almost half of Indians
Yeah, 47%.
have faced financial fraud in the past 3 years.
That's a scary number.
It is a scary number.
It is.
And credit card scams are right at the top of that list.
Absolutely. And it's a huge jump from the previous years.
That's what I was reading too. It's like exponentially
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah, we're talking like a 600% increase.
That's insane.
Yeah, from April to September of this past year.
So it's definitely something that we need to be talking about.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited to have you here. You always do such a great job of
Thank you.
breaking down complex topics.
Well, I try.
And I'm really hoping that today we can kind of equip our listeners with some knowledge
Yeah,
to stay safe.
absolutely.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
What are some of the most common credit card scams that people should be on the lookout for right now?
Well, one that we see quite often that often catches people off guard is skimming.
Okay.
So this is where scammers attach a device to an ATM or a card reader, and they secretly copy your card details when you swipe it.
So you don't even have to lose your card.
You don't.
They can just
By swiping it,
get that information.
they get the information they need.
Wow.
Yeah. And we saw that case in Kolkata. A couple managed to steal over 13 lakhs rupees
13 lakhs.
just by skimming a friend's card.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that's a really good reminder to always check ATMs and card readers and make sure there's nothing
Absolutely.
on.
Look for anything suspicious.
Right.
If anything feels off, don't use it.
Like if your card gets stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Report it to the bank immediately.
Good advice.
Yeah.
What about those calls that people get offering pre-approved credit cards?
Oh, yeah. Those.
I feel like everyone's gotten one of those at some point.
Everyone I know has gotten one of those.
Right?
Those are classic phishing scams.
Okay.
Yeah. So they use the name of a trusted institution, like we saw in the Fino Yogi video. The scammer pretended to be from SBI.
Right.
And they use that trust to trick people into revealing personal information.
Oh, it's so sneaky.
It's so sneaky.
So we've got skimming, we've got phishing. What else is out there?
Well, SIM swapping is becoming more and more common.
Okay.
And that's really dangerous because they get access to your OTPs.
Right? Because they basically hijack your phone number.
They hijack your phone number?
So all those verification codes are going to them.
All those verification codes go straight to them.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
And then there's application fraud, right?
Yes, application fraud.
Where someone uses stolen documents to open up a credit card in your name.
Exactly. And you might not even know what's happening until you start getting bills.
Until it's too late.
Yeah, for purchases you never made.
That's like a nightmare scenario.
It is a nightmare scenario.
It makes you wonder how these scammers are getting our information in the first place.
Right.
Is it all data breaches and like fancy hacking?
Well, data breaches are definitely a major factor.
Okay.
We saw that mentioned in the 01 by Zerota video.
Right.
Hackers are targeting companies that store our information
Right.
and then selling it on the dark web.
So it makes you feel like your information is just out there
It is out there.
for anyone to grab.
It is, unfortunate.
But it's not always high tech, right?
Right.
I was surprised to learn about dumpster diving.
Yeah.
Like-
It's a little old-fashioned,
Yeah.
but it's surprisingly effective. Remember that Forbes article?
Yeah.
Someone's identity was stolen because they didn't shred their documents
Oh my God.
before throwing them away.
Okay, so invest in a shredder.
Yes.
So we've got data breaches, dumpster diving,
Yep.
good old-fashioned phishing.
Phishing.
It seems like scammers have a lot of tricks up their sleeves.
They have a whole bag of tricks.
And there's another one that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm ready.
You mentioned this earlier. It's called re-scamming.
Re-scamming.
What is that?
This is when scammers target people who have already fallen victim to a scam.
Wait, so they scam the same person twice?
They do.
That seems
I know, it's cruel.
cruel even for a scammer.
It is, but it's effective.
Wow.
They know that the victim is already vulnerable,
Right.
and they might be more likely to trust them again.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we saw an example of this in the Business Standard article. A man almost got scammed twice in the same day.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
It's a reminder that even if you've been scammed, you still need to stay vigilant.
Right. You're a prime target.
You're a prime target.
That is a chilling thought.
It is.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's a good thing we're having this conversation.
absolutely.
But I have to ask, with all this talk about scams and data breaches, does technology actually make us more vulnerable?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Technology has enabled these incredibly sophisticated scams, like those mirroring apps we saw in that Finovation Z video.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also enabled safer payment methods like contactless technology and biometrics.
Right.
And we have much better fraud detection systems.
So it's kind of a balancing act.
It is a balancing act.
We benefit from the convenience, but we also need to be aware
Right.
of the risks.
Yes.
So speaking of risks, let's say you think you've been scammed.
Uh-oh.
What should you do?
So the most important thing is to act quickly.
Okay.
The first step, contact your bank immediately.
Right. Contact the bank.
And report the fraud.
Okay. What else?
Also report it to the cybercrime cell.
Okay.
That helpline number is 1930.
Got it.
They can investigate the scam and potentially prevent future victims.
So contact the bank, report to the cybercrime cell. Anything else?
Yes, absolutely change all your passwords and PINs.
Okay.
And not just for your bank accounts.
Right.
Any online account where you use those credentials.
Okay.
And start monitoring your accounts
Yeah.
very closely for any suspicious activity.
Small transactions.
Even small transactions.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can be a sign of something bigger.
Got it.
Yeah. And file a police report as well.
Okay.
Have a paper trail.
Okay. So that's a lot to remember.
It is.
But it sounds like taking swift action
Yes.
is key.
Absolutely.
But what about prevention?
Okay.
How can we proactively protect ourselves from becoming victims in the first place?
A lot of it comes down to being cautious and practicing good digital hygiene.
Okay.
Be wary of any unsolicited offers, whether it's a phone call, email, or text. Don't click on suspicious links.
Yeah.
Don't download apps from unknown sources.
Okay. Good advice.
And strong, unique passwords
Of course.
for every account.
So we should never reuse passwords.
Never.
Okay.
And enable two-factor authentication.
Yeah, they can be a little bit of a hassle sometimes.
It can be.
But
It's worth it.
it's worth it for the peace of mind.
It is.
For sure.
And check your bank statements and your credit reports regularly.
Okay.
Early detection is key.
So vigilance, caution, good digital habits.
Yes.
It sounds like we have a lot of power as individuals
I do.
to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
But what about the role of banks and financial institutions?
Okay.
Do they have a responsibility to do more?
They do. They have an ethical responsibility
Right.
to implement robust security systems,
To protect our data.
to protect customer data,
Okay.
and to be proactive in investigating and resolving fraud cases.
Yeah.
And they need to communicate clearly with their customers.
You mean like educate them?
Educate them about scams.
Yeah.
About how to stay safe.
Okay.
And I think we also need to consider the ethics of those really aggressive credit card marketing tactics.
Yeah.
You know, the pressure to sign up for new cards and the promises of rewards, it can make people more vulnerable.
Yeah, we saw that in the Growing Professional video.
Yes.
It's like a fine line between promoting a product
Right.
and potentially putting your customers at risk.
Absolutely.
So greater transparency from financial institutions.
Definitely.
At the potential risks.
Yes.
Okay, so individual responsibility is important, but we also need financial institutions
Right.
to step up and do their part.
Absolutely.
But what about the rest of us?
Okay.
How can society as a whole better support victims of credit card fraud?
That's an important question.
Yeah.
I think the first step is to break the stigma and the shame
Yeah.
that surrounds falling for scams.
Because people often blame themselves.
They do.
But the reality is these scams are so sophisticated.
They are very sophisticated. We need to create an environment where victims feel comfortable coming forward
Right.
and seeking help without feeling judged.
And then we need to provide actual resources
Yes.
and support
Absolutely.
to help them recover.
Right. It's not just about the financial loss.
Right.
It's the emotional trauma.
So breaking the stigma,
Yeah.
providing support,
Yep.
and also continuing to raise awareness and education
Absolutely.
to prevent future victims.
Wait, the more we talk about it, the more we share information,
Uh-huh.
the better equipped we'll all be to protect ourselves.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we're just scratching the surface
I think so too.
of this complex issue.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've already given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
and hopefully some actionable steps
Absolutely.
that they can take to protect themselves.
Yes.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about this stuff.
It really is.
We've been talking about how scammers get our information,
Right.
some of the ways that they try to trick us.
Uh-huh.
But before we go any further, I want to talk about something that really struck me
Okay.
while we were doing research for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Just the sheer number of scams that are happening.
It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Forbes Advisor India reported over 1.3 million scam complaints
1.3 million.
since 2019.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and that's just what's been reported.
Right, and that's just what people are reporting.
Exactly.
Imagine how many people...
Don't even realize.
Yeah, or maybe they're embarrassed and they...
Right, or they just don't want to deal with it.
Right, exactly.
It's a hassle.
So the number is probably even higher.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Significantly higher.
And then the amount of money involved.
Oh, yeah.
126 crore rupees.
That's a lot of money.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was this term that I kept coming across
Okay.
in my research, and I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah. Social engineering.
Social engineering.
What exactly does that mean?
So basically, it's the art of manipulating people
Okay.
into giving up confidential information.
Mm. So it's not even just about technology.
Right.
It's about, like, human psychology.
It is. It's understanding human psychology.
And exploiting our weaknesses.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. They use our emotions against us.
Oh, gosh.
Our fear, our greed, even our desire to help others.
I was thinking about that King Kepler network video.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were pretending to be from a bank.
Right.
Playing on the victim's trust.
Exactly.
And authority figures.
Yeah, they create a sense of urgency.
Right, right.
Or pressure.
So you don't think straight.
You don't think straight. You just react.
It's scary how convincing they can be.
It really is.
So we've got social engineering.
Right.
But there's another piece of this puzzle that I want to explore.
Okay.
Our own digital footprint.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy how much information about us is out there.
It's a lot.
Online.
Yeah. And that's why data breaches are so dangerous.
Exactly. All of that information is just out there for the taking.
Like in that 01 by Zerota video, they were talking about how stolen information is readily available on the dark web.
It's crazy.
That's a little unsettling.
It is unsettling.
To think about.
Yeah.
What are some steps that we can take to minimize that risk?
Strong, unique passwords.
Right.
Two-factor authentication.
So we shouldn't reuse passwords across multiple accounts.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Be wary of those too good to be true offers.
Right. It sounds suspicious.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Err on the side of caution.
Okay, so be cautious about what we share.
Yeah.
Be skeptical of offers.
Yeah.
Practice good password hygiene.
Yeah.
Okay. But even with all those precautions,
Right.
scams still happen.
They do.
So let's talk about what happens
Okay.
after someone falls victim.
All right.
That must be so stressful.
Incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
Financially and emotionally.
What would be the first thing that someone should do if they think they've been scammed?
Contact your bank immediately.
They're going to contact the bank.
And report the fraud.
What else?
Report the scam to the cybercrime cell.
Okay.
1930.
Okay, so not just about getting your money back.
No.
It's about stopping these scammers
Right.
from hurting other people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, reporting the scam creates a paper trail.
Okay.
Can help prevent future scams.
That Forbes Advisor India article that we read had a good checklist.
Yeah.
They were also recommending changing all your passwords and PINs,
Yes.
even for accounts that weren't directly affected.
Right. Change them regularly anyway.
Okay.
But especially important after a potential breach.
And I imagine keeping an eye on your bank statements
Absolutely.
and credit reports is crucial.
Early detection is key.
Look for any suspicious activity,
Right.
even small transactions
Even small transactions.
that you don't recognize.
Anything that you don't recognize.
You shared any personal information. Maybe put a fraud alert on your credit report.
That's a good idea.
Okay, but even if you take all the right steps,
Right.
it can still be emotionally devastating
I can be.
to fall victim to a scam.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People experience feelings of shame, guilt,
Yeah.
anger, betrayal.
It's easy to say don't blame yourself,
Right.
but in that moment, it must be really hard
It is very hard.
not to.
Yeah.
That's why having a support system is so crucial.
It is so important.
Talking to friends, family, a therapist
Yeah.
can be really helpful
Absolutely.
in processing that experience.
And just having someone to talk to.
Right.
Who understands.
And there are organizations
There are.
and resources that are specifically dedicated
Yeah.
to helping victims of fraud.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they can provide Guidance advice.
Yeah, financial guidance, legal advice,
Okay.
emotional support.
So it's really about rebuilding that trust,
It
both in yourself
Right.
and in the systems that are supposed to protect you. So it's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's not just a one-time fix.
It takes time.
This has been a really insightful conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting a much deeper understanding
Me too.
of the complexities of credit card fraud.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious to explore the bigger picture.
Okay.
We've talked about individual responsibility,
Uh-huh.
but what about the role of society as a whole?
Yeah.
What can we do to make this system itself more secure
Right.
and more supportive?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We can't just focus on individual actions.
Right.
We need to address the systemic issues,
The root causes.
the root causes that contribute to these scams.
And one of the biggest things that stands out to me is data security.
Absolutely.
We've seen how data breaches are fueling these scams.
They are.
What can be done to prevent them?
Well, companies that collect and store our information,
Right.
they have a huge responsibility
Yeah.
to safeguard that data.
Uh,
They need to invest in robust security measures.
right. Stay ahead of the curve
Oh, okay.
when it comes to cyber threats.
That 01 by Zerota video was talking about data minimization.
Oh, yeah.
Like, companies shouldn't be collecting more
No.
data than they need.
Exactly.
And we should have more control.
More control over how our data is used.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely.
So better data security,
Yeah.
more transparency.
Uh-huh.
What else can we do on a systemic level to curb these scams?
I think stronger law enforcement.
Okay.
Stricter penalties for scammers.
Right.
Right now, the risks for these criminals
Yeah.
don't seem to outweigh the consequences.
And it's tough because, as that Finovation Z video pointed out,
Yeah.
a lot of these scammers operate across different cities
Right.
or even countries.
Different countries.
So it makes them harder to track down and prosecute.
It's a jurisdictional challenge.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we need better international collaboration
Yes.
between law enforcement agencies.
I feel like right now we're reacting to scams after they've already happened.
Right. It's always after the fact.
What if we could be more proactive?
I agree.
Yeah.
A proactive approach would focus on early detection
Okay.
and prevention.
So sharing information about emerging scams,
Right.
developing new security solutions,
Absolutely.
educating people about the risks.
It's a big task.
It does sound like a big task,
It is.
but if we work together,
Yeah.
I think it's something that we can overcome.
We can definitely overcome it.
So creating a culture of security and awareness
Yes.
where everyone is playing their part
Right.
to protect themselves and each other.
Absolutely.
And that brings up another important piece of this puzzle,
Okay.
financial literacy.
Yeah.
If people have a better understanding of how credit cards work,
Right.
how to manage their finances,
Yeah.
how to spot those red flags.
They're less likely to become victims.
We saw in that Candid Chandru video
Yeah.
how scammers often target people who might not be as familiar with online banking or credit card terms.
They would take advantage of that.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we need to bridge that knowledge gap.
We do.
Financial institutions should take the lead in educating their customers,
They should.
but we also need broader societal efforts
Right.
to promote financial literacy.
It's an investment in a more resilient society.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just about protecting people.
Right.
It's about empowering them
Exactly. Giving them the tools and knowledge.
to take control of their financial well-being.
Absolutely.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation,
It has.
and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
But for now, let's wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everybody,
Yeah.
into the world of credit card scam.
It's a scary world out there.
It is.
But hopefully we're shedding some light on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Giving people some tools to
Exactly.
protect
Well,
themselves.
we've been talking about how to protect ourselves, the role of these financial institutions, and even financial literacy.
Right.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I wanted to kind of circle back to something that we talked about a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
which is that emotional impact
Oh.
of these scams.
It's huge.
Yeah, we tend to focus on the financial losses,
Right.
but the emotional toll
Absolutely.
can be just as bad, if not worse.
Sometimes even worse.
Yeah, imagine that feeling of violation,
Right.
the sense of betrayal,
Uh-huh.
the fear that your financial security has been compromised.
Yeah. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and it must be incredibly stressful.
Incredibly stressful.
And it's not just in the immediate aftermath.
No, it's long term too.
Yeah.
People experience anxiety, depression, even PTSD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can be really, really damaging.
So it's really important that we raise awareness
Absolutely.
and provide support.
Yeah, we need to create a space where people feel comfortable coming forward,
Right.
sharing their experiences and seeking help.
Without shame.
Without shame, exactly.
Yeah, we need to break that stigma
We do.
and create a culture of empathy and understanding.
Yes, because too often victims are blamed
Right.
for falling for these scams, but the reality is
Yeah.
these criminals are so skilled.
They're professionals.
They are professionals at manipulating people.
And these scams are becoming increasingly sophisticated.
It's hard to spot the red flags,
It is.
even for people who are aware.
Exactly.
So instead of blaming the victims,
Right.
we should be focusing on providing support
Okay.
and resources to help them recover.
So there are organizations that are dedicated to assisting
There are.
victims of fraud.
Yes.
So they offer financial guidance, legal advice, emotional support.
All of the above.
So it's important to remember,
You're not alone.
yeah, you're not alone.
If you've been scammed,
There are people who understand
absolutely.
what you're going through,
And they can help.
and they can help. Okay, so beyond that individual support,
Okay.
we also need to think about societal solutions.
Right. What can we do as a society?
Yeah, what can we do to create a system that is more resilient
Yeah.
to these scams and better protects?
Protects its citizens?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is a big question.
Where do we even begin?
Well, we've talked about strengthening data security,
Right.
improving law enforcement,
Hmm.
promoting financial literacy.
Yep. But it also comes down to, I think, changing our mindset.
Absolutely.
Shifting from this reactive approach
Right.
to a more proactive approach
We need to be proactive.
instead of just waiting for scams to happen.
Right, and cleaning up the mess.
Yeah, and then trying to clean up the mess.
Yes, afterwards.
What if we could just prevent them from happening in the first
Yes.
place?
Prevention is key.
So creating this culture of vigilance
Yes.
where everyone is aware of the risks and they're taking steps
Right.
to protect themselves and each other.
We all have a role to play.
So it's a collective effort.
It is.
Individuals, financial institutions, tech companies,
Mhm.
law enforcement.
We all need to work together.
Yeah, we all have a role to play in this.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it's about building a society that prioritizes security,
Yeah.
fairness, and the well-being of its citizens.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, this has been an incredibly informative deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground,
we have.
from the technical details
Yeah.
to the broader social and emotional implications.
That's a complex issue.
It is a complex issue, but hopefully
Yeah.
our listeners feel empowered
I hope so.
with the knowledge that they need to stay safe.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
It is.
This case.
A big thank you to you for sharing your insights and your expertise.
No, thank you for having me.
And to all of you listening,
Yeah.
remember to stay informed,
Stay vigilant.
be cautious, and don't hesitate to reach out for help
Absolutely.
if you need it.
There are resources out there.
Until next time, stay safe.
And stay aware.